What's up, everybody? How's it going? Austin Prechtel, Pret Elevate Performance, coming at you live. Happy Tuesday. Happy, hey, it's 420. So, what's up, everybody? Today, we're going to be talking about a pretty, I don't know, topical topic, right, for today. It's an interesting one. It's not something that I talk a whole lot about in my day to day or on my story or anything like that. But yeah, so figured I'd just talk about this subject. And those of you watching right now, I didn't tag anybody just because, whatever your stance is on things is your stance and yours alone. But I'm just going to talk about marijuana and fitness and just kind of like its place, like kind of like what we know about it, what we don't know about it. My personal experience, if you guys don't know. Just a preface before I start this whole live. This is not medical advice. This is for, educational and entertainment purposes only. It's illegal in a lot of states. So, obviously, if it's illegal in your state, can't recommend that at all. But you do you again. It's legal in my state, though. I live in Washington. So, yeah, let's talk about it. A little bit of background, I guess, on me. And this is something that if you're a close friend of mine, but also if you're somebody that doesn't know, I figured I'd give a little bit of background on, me personally. And so it's one of those things. If you are if you are not of age, if you are like younger than 21, there are like effects that it can have on your brain development. Okay, so if you are younger than 21, like it's one of those things like probably should be avoided, especially if it's consistent use. And I'm not your boss, I'm not your dad or whatever, but like it's one of those things like there have been studies that have shown that. But me being me, I started doing it whenever I was like like I don't know, like 14 or 15 probably. Not very consistently, but it's one of those things that as I continue to age and get further along in life. It's one of those things that being in a state where it is legal, it is something that I enjoy from time to time, and I think that it has its place. But here we are going to talk about what it actually can, like the potential benefits and the potential like pros and cons that go along with it. So yeah, so we're gonna talk about weed as they call it on TikTok. But yeah, so right now, as far as we know, it's one of those things that is like it's just not been studied a ton. It's being studied more and more as it becomes more and more legal, and that's one of the issues with it. Being studied is that it's illegal in so many places that it's hard to basically do studies on it. And so what we know so far, anyways, may not be what we know, 5 years from now, as science continues to do more studies on it. And so one of the things, though, is that, as far as its place in, sports and performance and strength training and fitness in general, there are some potential, pros and cons to it as far as we know right now. And so I'm just going to kind of talk about some of the applications or, ways that, it is used and some of the things that it people may think it helps and other people may think it might not help, but I'm just going to bring the science to you guys. So right now, as far as we know, in terms of like performance, it has been shown that it doesn't really impact your ability to, strength or sports performance or anything like that. It may like in individuals that did like, consume or weed basically before exercising and things like that. They did have a slight decrease in output in terms of like sports performance, endurance, and things like that. But it wasn't really that significant of a difference. So one thing I will say though is in terms of it being dose dependent and dependent on the individual in terms of what your tolerance is. If you are somebody who gets just totally blazed out of their mind from like taking one little toke or something like that, like you probably shouldn't go exercise if you do it because it can impact your motor control, your ability to basically, like control your body, which is probably not a good thing to do with lifting heavy ass weight. If you're somebody who's just going in to do some like, like calisthenics or like body weight exercises or like go and do cardio or something like that, it's probably not that big of a deal. One thing that can happen though is it does increase your heart rate. So if you're somebody that's prone to heart issues or you have a family history of heart issues or something like that, you need to be careful. Again, consult your doctor probably before doing some of these things. It might be a difficult conversation to have if you're in a state where it's not legal, but you know take what anything you do, there's always some sort of risk associated with it, so just keep that in mind. But it may actually help. One of the benefits is inflammation and pain management and things like that. The caveat here is if you have something that you need to be careful and weary of re-injuring or getting hurt doing, that might not be, it might have like, it may help you manage that pain, but it also might end up causing you to re-injure yourself or hurt yourself. So it's one of those things that's on a case by case basis that you need to be careful about these things. If it's something that you have chronic pain with and it's just like scar tissue or some sort of nerve damage or something like that that you're dealing with, then maybe it could be something that would be useful for you to use. And so just keep that in mind. A lot of these things are on an individual by individual basis. A lot of these things are, kind of more anecdotal than anything too, because a lot of people will say, I like doing it because I can really feel the muscles working. I really like it because I can get in the zone. I can have like more focus and things like that during the workouts. Not me. For me personally, it does not work like that very well. I will say I have tried it a couple of times, and the times that I have tried it, my workouts personally kind of sucked ass, but that's just me personally. And so it's one of those things that, you know yourself best. And if it's something that helps you get in the zone, because at the end of the day, a lot of fitness and exercising and things like that, it comes down to mindset, right? It comes down to mindset. And if you find that it's something that helps you psychologically to get in the zone and get your workouts in and have a good workout, by all means, I'm not here to, I can't, it's not my place to tell you what to do. I'm of the belief that, you are in control of your own body and you should be able to do with it whatever you want with it, as long as it doesn't hurt other people. So, keep that in mind. And then it's one of those things too. So, diet, weight loss, weight gain. Where does this kind of like fall into place, and what, what, how can that impact it? So we've all heard of the munchies, right? Like everybody knows, like the typical stoner, like like kind of like thing is just like, oh, you're lazy and you smoke and all you do is sit on the couch and eat stuff all live long day. It's one of those things that it's like, again, there are people who are very like high performers that are perfectly fine and they can go throughout their day to day and be high all day and it's fine, and they do they function very well. Other people, like you get not you're very couch locked, and it depends on the strain and things like that too. But like for somebody who is going through a weight loss phase, it may not be something that is conducive to your goals if you get really bad munchies. Like, and again, pe- people get affected differently. But if you're somebody who's trying to lose weight and you're, token up on a daily basis and it's giving you really bad munchies, weed increases your appetite like crazy for some people. Some studies are showing that it increases it by like up to like 40%. And so it's one of those things that if you already struggle with like binge eating, or you're somebody who's like struggling and you're in a caloric deficit right now and you're dieting, maybe think about it a little bit more, because also it can affect like your inhibitions. So like you might be less likely to hold yourself accountable to your diet if you do that. So it's one of those things, like if you get the munchies really bad, maybe, and you're trying to lose weight, might not be your best option, or maybe try to go for a strain that is lower in that those munchy inducing effects. But if you are somebody who struggles to gain weight, if you're somebody who has a horrible time with their appetite and you have a hard time eating on a daily basis, you have a hard time getting your calories in, and you're somebody who's trying to gain weight, you can see where I'm going here. There's the potential there for it to help you get your calories in. So think about it that way. For somebody that struggles to get your food in, and and you're in a state where it's legal, that choice is yours. But that's just something that there is a potential benefit there for. So think about it that way. One thing that is important to note is that studies have shown that people who chronically use marijuana actually have like a lower body fat percentage than those that don't. And it's kind of like a counterintuitive thing, but it's just that's just the when they've done studies on that, that's what they've shown, and so that's something to keep in mind. Um, you know, one of those things too is that like what about for like relaxation and stress reduction and decreasing cortisol levels and things like that. So if you're somebody who like there's a lot of prominent like athletes and bodybuilders out there that utilize it as a form of reducing stress, helping with like chronic inflammation from lifting weights and things like that. So I think that there is the potential there for its use in terms of like the CBD side of things. So keep that in mind. It's not and I'm not here to tell you either that it's all like these are all things that we don't necessarily know, the final say on, right? Like it hasn't been studied long enough or intensely enough due to restrictions on it. And it's one of those things that more and more information is coming out every single freaking month, it seems like. It's something that's being studied more and more. And so it's not all sunshines and rainbows, right? There's probably some inherent risk depending on how you consume it because these are things that are affecting our brain chemistry. These are things that depending on how you consume it, if you're smoking it, that's obviously not good for your lungs. Some studies have shown that it's not as bad as like smoking tobacco products or cigarettes or things like that. But at the end of the day, chronic bronchitis is something that could be a potential thing that could happen. Basically having issues with it affecting your lung health and causing I can't remember the term, but you have an increased risk of having basically like I can't think of it right now, but like um, pneumonia thoraxes. I think that's the name for it. Basically, where you could have issues with your lung health in the future. That's always some sort of inherent risk whenever you do smoke. So that's something to keep in mind. Chronic bronchitis, having issues with like your sinuses and things like that. That's something that can happen. And so it's just one of those things that risk versus reward. What you like to do versus what you're willing to risk, kind of thing. So just keep that in mind. Nothing. There's always the concept of like too much of a good thing, right? There's always that concept of like balance whenever you're doing things like this. And so to each is their own though, right? Like at the end of the day, to each is their own. I'm just telling you guys, what to know about it, what to like be careful of, what to think about whenever you're doing these things, the potential benefits, the potential side effects, and nothing is super conclusive yet. So if somebody's like, like it's super bad for you, they're probably not totally right. Or if somebody's like, it's like super good for you and it's like the best thing ever and it's going to make you have the best workouts and performance and things like that, they're probably wrong too. So I'm somebody who's kind of like just laying it out there and kind of meeting you in the middle kind of thing. Like there's not any particular it's super good for you or super bad for you. And so just keep that in mind. But if you're somebody that it benefits, you do you, keep doing you. I'm gonna keep doing me. And yeah, for me, it's more or less kind of like a glass of glass of red wine at the end of the day, sort of thing to chill out, relax whenever I do end up using it. But yeah, so that's just my take on it. Again, not recommending that you do it, not recommending that you don't. If it's illegal in your state, obviously don't break the law. But it's one of those things that this is just for educational and entertainment purposes only, not medical advice. But yeah, happy 420, everybody. And this is just kind of like, the place of where marijuana is in fitness and, the potential pros and cons of it. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great freaking 420. This isn't something that I really talk about that much, but I felt like, now is as good a day as ever to talk about it. If not now, then when? And so, it's one of those things that's kind of funny that I always, growing up in a very, I don't know, like growing up in Indiana, growing up in the Midwest, it's something that was, it's kind of funny, like taboo, but also like everybody freaking did it. Growing up in a very small farm town where there's not a whole lot to do, kind of thing, and so it's one of those things that You know, it was always kind of taboo, but now that, you know, I, one, live in a state where it's legal. Two, I'm my own freaking boss and I don't have to worry about like stupid random drug tests and things like that. It's one of those things where, you know, you know, it's one of those things that's kind of interesting as, you know, things continue to progress where, you know, shit, like before the 1940s, it wasn't, you know, illegal and it wasn't really seen as being necessarily a bad thing. And, you know, over the last like shit, like 60 to 80 years, it, you know, has taken on a different form. But now, as things start to become more legal, it's one of those things that, you know, you wonder, you know, 10 years from now, people are going to be like, you know, like, why was that illegal kind of thing. And so it's just a continuing, developing thing and in this, you know, ever changing like political climate and things like that. So, you know, just something to think about. You know, to each their own. If, you know, I'm of the mindset that if you're somebody kind of going along the lines of like, you know, other, you know, performance enhancing drugs and things like that, like it's your body. You should be able to do whatever you want with it, and nobody should be able to tell you what you can and can't do with it as long as you're not hurting anybody. But that's just my take on it. And I hope you guys got value from this. I hope that this was informative. I hope that this was helpful. If you got value from this, give this video a like. If you're somebody, you know, that, you know, agrees with me, cool. If you're somebody that disagrees with me, well, that's your opinion, and I don't really, you know, maybe you're not my kind of people anyways. So other than that, hope you guys have a great 420, and I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one, everybody.